I can do this all day. What does it mean? This is Steve Rogers' line from Marvel's Captain America. This word itself represents Captain America's strong belief. So what kind of person is Captain America Steve Rogers saying this? With a warm heart, he has everything a leader has to have, including a spirit of sacrifice for the team, a strong will that never breaks his belief, an initiative and drive to carry out a planned operation. There is a comparable figure with Captain America. It's not a fictional character, it's a real person. That's why I prepared this. Today's theme is Captain America only on Marvel. Captain Korea is also in Korea. The story of Admiral Lee Sun-shin. There are 5 things in common between Captain America Steve Rogers and Captain Korea Lee Sun-shin. Hello, I'm Rebecca of Orange Korea, who tells you everything about Korea. Today, we are going to find out what Captain America, a fictional character, has in common with Lee Sun-shin, a real person. I'm sure many people are unfamiliar with Lee Sun-shin, even though they are familiar with Captain America. Lee Sun-shin is the commander-in-chief of Korean Navy in the 16th century. In 1592, Japan invaded Joseon with 160,000 troops. At that time, the national name of Korea was Joseon. Lee Sun-shin was victorious in every single battle. From now on, common point between Captain America Steve Rogers and Captain Korea Lee Sun-shin start. First, both Captain America and Lee Sun-shin have a strong belief. Captain America Steve Rogers has a righteous mind for the nation. That's why he willingly planned to go to war to defeat the Nazis, who harm world peace, even when he is a weakling before he gets super serum. Even after he becomes a super soldier, he doesn't break the faith he is pursuing. Captain Korea's Lee Sun-shin also had a strong belief. He also had a sense of mission for his nation, and he never broke his faith. While working as a career soldier in the military for 23 years, he was dismissed from office 3 times and fought in a war as an enlisted soldier 2 times. Fighting in a war as an enlisted soldier means he was stripped of his rank and became the lowest soldier. Lee Sun-shin was posted as junior officer at the age of 32. At the age of 35, when he was in the position at a military training center, his superior Seoik requested special consideration for job position. Of course, Lee Sun-shin refused his boss's request. Then the rumor that Lee Sun-shin flat said no to his boss's request spread. So it went to the ears of the Minister of War, Kim Ki-young. The position of Minister of War is similar to Secretary of Defense. Minister of War Kim Ki-young considered his rejection admirable and commendable, so he suggested Lee Sun-shin to marry his daughter and became his son-in-law. However, Lee Sun-shin rejected the marriage proposal at once, saying,
"How can I be the son-in-law of the chief of the army when I am a soldier?"
Like this, in his belief that he thought was right, Lee Sun-shin did not compromise with any injustice. Second common point between Captain America and Captain Korea Lee Sun-shin is lack of flexibility. Captain and Iron Man confront each other in the movie Captain America 3 Civil War. The main story of the movie is about Iron Man, who said international organizations should control heroes, and Captain America who said international organizations should not control heroes. The standpoint of Captain America is like this. If international organizations control heroes, its power can damage the value of freedom. For example, let's say there is an international organization. That international organization has very poor relations with a certain country, but a gang of scoundrels comes into the country and destroys people's lives and property. However, because of bad relations with that country, the international organization does not send heroes with this excuse and that excuse. For that reason, Captain America conflicts with Iron Man and other heroes with a strong belief he pursues and fights with them. As such, strong belief on unbreakable problem, which lead to conflict. Captain Korea's Lee Sun-shin also showed little flexibility with strong belief. When Lee Sun-shin turned 36, he became a military officer under the command of Jeolla Jasusa. Jeolla Jasusa means a naval general now. Lee Sun-shin was ordered to cut down the poronia tree in the government office to make a gamungo, a music instrument. At this time, Lee Sun-shin firmly rejected the order. The reason was that the poronia tree in the government office was the property of the state, so it was not right to use it privately. Third, Captain America Steve Rogers and Captain Korea's Lee Sun-shin have thorough planning skills. Captain America Steve Rogers experiences numerous battles with the Nazis. Also in modern times, he fights against Thanos, the absolute destroyer of the universe, in a thorough plan with his team member. That's why he grows up to be the leader of the Avengers. Captain Korea Lee Sun-shin played a great role during the war between Korea and Japan in 1592. At the beginning of the war between Korea and Japan, due to Japanese invasion of Korea, Lee Sun-shin was assigned as commander of the left Jeolla Naval District, which was like General of Navy. The Battle of Hansan Island is one of the most famous battles. On July 8, 1592, a naval battle took place off Hansan Island. The Japanese general of the Battle of Hansan Island is Wakizaka Yasuharu. Wakizaka Yasuharu was a brave general who defeated 50,000 Joseon soldiers in Yongin with only 1,600 cavalry. At this time, Lee Sun-shin decided to lure the Japanese fleet to the coast of Hansan Island and destroy them. With thorough planning, Admiral Lee successfully lured out 73 Japanese vessels into the mouth of Hansan Island, and the Japanese fleet followed. There, Lee Sun-shin's 60th fleet surrounded them and started to attack Japanese fleet in a semicircular formation called crane wing. The crane wing tactic refers to the formation that surrounds and attacks enemies in the shape of crane wings. After firing volleys of cannonballs into the Japanese ship, 59 Japanese vessels were sunk and buried in the sea. Japanese ships usually carried about 200 people. It is said that 30 to 40 vessels carrying about 200 naval soldiers sank into the sea, and the remaining slightly smaller ships also sank. So the damage of Japan was at least 8,000 to 9,000 people. There was no damage to Lee Sun-shin's fleet that day, and he did not lose a single ship of his own. There were only 19 deaths and 115 injuries. Lee Sun-shin's thorough plan led to a great victory with minimal damage to Korea. First, Captain America Steve Rogers and Captain Korea Lee Sun-shin have strong leadership. After Civil War, many of the heroes who share the view with the Captain America Steve Rogers either become criminals and are put in jail or are chased. Even then, Captain America doesn't abandon his colleagues and take care of them until the end. He finds scattered colleagues and brings them together as a team, and then they confront Thanos, the public enemy. Lee Sun-shin was dismissed in February 1597. Here's the story. Yoshida, a double spy, falsely informed the king of the date of Japan's re-intrusion. The king believed this and ordered Lee Sun-shin to attack Japanese ships. However, Lee Sun-shin did not believe this through various information networks. The king was jealous and hated Lee Sun-shin for not following his order. During the war, ordinary people believed and supported Lee Sun-shin rather than the king. For that reason, the king wanted to remove Lee Sun-shin, who violated his orders, even if it was false information. The king dismissed Lee Sun-shin and tortured him harshly for refusing to carry out his order. Lee Sun-shin was tortured almost to the point of death. And then the Korean Navy, led by new naval commander Won Gyun, was wiped out by the Japanese Navy in the Battle of Chilcheonyang. That's why the king was urgent. He hurriedly reinstated Admiral Lee Sun-shin as commander-in-chief of the Navy. However, together with his flagship, his entire fleet totaled only 13 ships. All 300 ships collected and made by Lee Sun-shin had disappeared. Lee was combat with the Japanese Navy and narrow Myeongyang Strait. Many ships could not enter at once due to the narrow Myeongyang Strait. So Lee Sun-shin's battleship defeated the Japanese warship entering the narrow sea route one by one. On this day, Lee Sun-shin won a great victory in Myeongnam. 31 Japanese vessels were completely buried at sea. In addition, countless ships were hit and sunk into the sea. Lee Sun-shin was not afraid of the incoming enemy, but set an example to other soldiers by engaging in combat according to the plan. Fifth, Captain America Steve Rogers and Captain Korea Lee Sun-shin are selfless characters who think about the team first. There was one task in the process of selecting a soldier to administer super serum on Captain America 1. It was, can you sacrifice yourself for others? With all the soldiers gathered, grenade fell, and all ran away from it. But Steve Rogers was the only one who sacrificed himself to cover the grenade for everyone. The hero who is ready to sacrifice for others is Captain America Steve Rogers. Captain Korea Lee Sun-shin was also ready to sacrifice himself for the country. On November 19, 1598, Lee Sun-shin engaged in the Battle of Noryang. This naval battle was his final battle. On November 19, 1598, 500 Japanese ships, 200 Joseon ships, and about 200 to 300 Ming ships fought in the waters of Noryang. The fight started at 2 o'clock in the early morning and ended the next day late in the afternoon. Then, with one gunshot, Admiral Lee Sun-shin falls down after being shot in the chest. Next to Admiral Lee Sun-shin were his son Lee Hwae and nephew Lee Wan. Lee Sun-shin left the last will to them.
The battle is at its height. Beat my war drums. Do not announce my death.
This will was a message to his troops. He was worried about the demoralization of his troops if his death was known. Captain Korea Lee Sun-shin thought of his teammates until the moment he died and was willing to sacrifice himself for the country. As a result of the Battle of Noryang, 350 out of 500 Japanese vessels were sunk, and 100 were captured. Only about 50 Japanese ships managed to escape from Noryang Sea. Did you enjoy today's content? Let's quickly summarize today's topic. Captain America Steve Rogers and Captain Korea Lee Sun-shin, 5 things in common. First, Captain America and Lee Sun-shin have a strong belief. Second, Captain America and Lee Sun-shin lack flexibility. Third, Captain America Steve Rogers and Captain Korea Lee Sun-shin have thorough planning skills. First, Captain America Steve Rogers and Captain Korea Lee Sun-shin have strong leadership. Fifth, Captain America Steve Rogers and Captain Korea Lee Sun-shin are selfless characters who think about the team first. So far, we have learned about Captain America and Captain Korea Lee Sun-shin in common. The comparison between a fictional person and a real person can seem inappropriate at first glance. However, we can get a glimpse of the greatness of Admiral Lee Sun-shin, who is a real person through his commonality with a fictional character. If you are curious about Admiral Lee Sun-shin, please look for other YouTube or internet material. You will be surprised every time you see it. This has been Rebecca, a real Korean woman from Orin, Korea, who tells you everything about Korea. Subscription and alarm settings are love. Please press like key. That's it, the end.